Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today we're going to continue my segments on analysing the Necron Codex. Today I'm going to look at Immortals, the other troop choice for Necrons, not just your sort of infamous Necron warriors. These are the more elite of the troop choices. So how this works is I'm going to look at the squad in the Codex itself, have a look at the sort of stats of the unit and the weapons that they have as an option, as well as special abilities that may be applicable. After that, I'm going to look at sort of loadout and role suggestions, how I think the best way to use the unit. After that, we're going to have a look at dynasty codes, we're going to have a look at stratagems as well. So with that, let's have a look at Immortals. So Immortals in terms of stats are very similar to Necron warriors. Movement 5, which is standard for Necrons, weapon skill plus skill 3+, which is pretty accurate. Strength and toughness of 4. Maybe people might argue that, toughness 5, because they are robots, should be, more applicable, but, toughness 4 is still ideal. Wounds and attacks 1, which is kind of standard for standard infantry. Leadership 10, which is great and standard across Necrons. And a 3+ save, which is improved from the Necron warriors. It shows that their armour is a little bit more enduring. In terms of war gear, they are all armed with Gauss blasters, which are essentially a stronger Gauss flare, where it's a higher strength and higher AP by 1, which is kind of good. It simply means that if you're going for other troops that are generally about toughness 4, you're going to wound them easier and you're going to strip their armour away easier, which is fantastic. But they also have the Tesla Carbine, which is an assault 2, strength 5, so you wound a bit easier. No AP, 1 damage, but each roll of a 6+ causes 3 hits instead of 1. And that is a huge advantage, and this is where people find a lot of the strengths of the Immortals, especially once you augment them. So let's speak a bit about the roles and loadouts of Necron Immortals. Immortals are an interesting unit to speak about, less iconic than Necron warriors, but still, sort of fill several roles that are quite interesting for it. In some ways, I'd say that it was actually easier for me to write this one than the Necron warriors, even though they have weapon options. It was just a simple case of their weapons do show where their specialist size should be. Similar to Necron warriors, we're going to look at what we want to achieve with Immortals, look a bit about their weapon options and the synergy bit abilities that make them more ideal. So let's firstly speak about strong weapon approach, which is the Gauss blaster. What are the strengths of the Gauss blaster? Simply put, is strength 5, meaning that they'll get through toughness 4 a lot easier, which is very, very ideal. Even toughness 8 will have to feel them a wee bit because they are going to wound them on 5s, which is a bit more ideal. Even more interesting is they are very reliable -2 AP, which will strip away armour very, very easily. In rapid fire, this is going to be extremely deadly, meaning more wounds should get through and more saves are failed. This works to, essentially, as I said, be an upgraded Gauss flare. Which route is better? Mortals with Gauss blasters or Necron warriors with Gauss flares. Necron warriors, essentially, this is a bit of a complex one. If you're going to go down the big blob of Necron warriors and deploy them where they need to be, and you give them enough synergy abilities, then yeah, they can be more ideal in that sense. If you're going to get more shots, that can be quite ideal, and they're going to strip away armour, especially if you've got Mithrit. Necron warriors will benefit on that one, and the Necron warriors work as a good screening unit. But on that side one as well is that just having the more reliable ways to get through armour, you're making your wound rolls probably easier and your opponent's armour saves harder. I'd probably say versus things like Custodes, you may want to look at Gauss blasters because they are simply going to work much better against what the strengths of Custodes are, which are they are tougher, they've got better armour saves, but stripping them both away, making yourself easier to wound, and also their saves harder, is probably going to be better. The other thing to say as well is that Immortals, certainly when it goes to the Gauss blaster, I'd say probably work better taking in smaller units. You don't need to take that big 20-man squad and hope for the buffs. You can maybe put your buffs in other areas, but the Immortals can work quite well, just as small 5-man squads, going out hunting objectives, hindering your opponent getting rapid fire, and there's less risk with that. So there is a big potential in that one as well. The other one as well we're going to speak about is more shots, potentially, and that is the Tesla Carbine loadout. So this seems to be the big, or at least what people find the most helpful unit probably when it comes to troop choices in general. Not having an AP does help, does hurt Tesla quite a wee bit. However, there's a few things you need to look at when it comes to Tesla. It does just make them shine in general. There's plenty of buffs in the Necron Codex to augment hit. This makes the Tesla ability much easier to activate and give you much more reliable shots. On certain armies such as Sodis, sure, plenty of shots is going to be useless, they're just going to bounce off their armour, and blasters may be more ideal. However, the other thing to think about is that it is also an assault 2 weapon. Now I don't really rate assault weapons, they're fine and all, they do okay. I don't like advancing and firing, and it does, if you do advance, it will essentially negate the Tesla Carbine's best ability. But it is a 2-shot at 24 inches. You don't need to be in rapid fire range, so you can sit back a lot more reliably and still put out your 2 shots, and potentially, if you get 6s, get more. As opposed to warriors and immortals with blasters, they want to be more closer in 12 inches to get their full potential off. This, I feel, is more forgiving playstyle to have these Tesla carbines. You can sit in the backfield, don't need to be nearly as aggressive, so an objective if you want, and put out a reliable amount of shots that may do more. And I think that is a lot more forgiving and a lot easier to do. And with the plenty of ways to add to your hit rolls, that does help. Let's cover a few tactics, previous ones I talked about when it came to Necron Warriors, and I'll just try and go over them a little bit quicker, but if you want more detail, maybe check out the Necron Warriors overview. So we're going to say like the drop tactic, which is said with Necron Warriors, which is redeploy with the Veil of Darkness or the Deceiver, or even dropping in with the Night Scythe. Essentially, you're dropping into where you need to be and get within short range to be in maximum effect. Blasters certainly want to be in close range so they can get in rapid fire and do more damage, but the Tesla Carbine can afford to not really have this redeployment. They can be 24 inches away and still be just as effective as if they were going to be close, unless of course they're Mithrit, in which case that'd be fantastic because Mithrit's really good with the Tesla. But they don't need to be that aggressive if they want to with Tesla, but the redeployment option is there for Gauss Blasters, and that can be devastating. Last points similar to Necron Warrior ones to a degree. Overlord or Catacomb Command Barge are essentially going to be very, very useful. Alright, maybe not so useful in the blasters, though hitting more accurately is going to be fantastic. They're going to shred opponents easily. However, the Tesla benefits hugely here. Being able to activate, hit on 2s, but activate Tesla on a 5+ is going to be really, really good. Essentially bringing a shed load more shots, which is going to be absolutely awesome. So if you do go with a 10-man Tesla squad, I'd probably recommend take 2 in an Overlord, add on the Pharaons will, and you're going to be putting out an absolute ton of shots, which is going to be good. Cryptek is less useful in my opinion. You are rocking a 3-up save, so only really -3 AP, which brings you to 6-up armor save, is going to be useful, and to take the main advantage of the 5-up invul save. And even at that, smaller units are going to be, because you can only be a 10-man squad, you're going to be essentially a lot easier to fit in cover. So it's less ideal, only a -4 AP would be really beneficial then. So that sort of, protection of an invul is not going to be as ideal. The reanimation protocol augmentation is going to be helpful as well, bring back more units, though if you're in a 5-man squad, your opponent will probably wipe you to a man. But even 10-man squad, they'll probably still wipe you out to a man, because you might as well finish them, not risk that reanimation, because if you brought back 6 or 4, 5, 6 Immortals, your opponent's going to be kicking themselves. Finally, let's talk about Immortal Pride. I always love it, but Immortals are usually either a 5 or 10-man squad. If you go a 10-man squad, then you will suffer casualties and you'll have to take morale once you suffer 5 or more. But you're going to be close to death either way. Your opponent racks up the kills, and eventually if you're at like 8 or 9 Immortals, your opponent's probably going to go, look, finish them off. Don't worry about morale, because if you did make that lucky morale pass, then you might reanimate and be a real problem. So your opponent will probably wipe you out, in which case you don't need to worry about Immortal Pride as much, because you're probably going to be dead, is what I'm saying on that one. It's nice to have, certainly if you have 1 Immortal left and then you reanimate 5 of them, then yeah, fantastic, that was great of Immortal Pride. But I think your opponent's probably just going to go, no, I'm just going to wipe you out, or risk the dice, or make you spend command points. So it's handy, but less handy when it is a 20-man Necron warrior squad. And the final part again is that I think I've technically said final part twice, is that these are probably your preferred battalion troop choice. Why? Is simply because they can be a 5-man squad and they're going to be cheaper than Necron warriors who have to be a 10-man squad. This allows you to bring your command points, and although you may be 5-man squads, so you're less enticed, they're less enticing to buff up with my will be done, or wave of command, or various other abilities. It does mean you have the command points to spend elsewhere, and also general points to spend elsewhere, because they are your cheapest troops in that regard if you take them in a 5-man squad. So yeah, in terms of the troop choice, yeah, I would almost go with Immortals if you want to get command points. If you don't, then you have a lot of other options. Take a 10-man Immortal squad, or take a big Necron warrior squad if you're not chasing the command points. But certainly if you are chasing them, small Immortal squad is probably the way I would go. Let's speak about Dynasty codes. Mithrit, Solar Fury. Each time a model with this code shoots an enemy unit that is within half range, improve the of its maximum range, the armor penetration characteristic of the weapon stack is improved by 1. So again, this is, David's go-to one. He absolutely loves the sort of Mithrit ability. This brings their Ghost Blasters to -3 AP, which is just going to hurt a lot of forces. Losing 3 from your armor save is devastating. But even in Tesla, if you get within half range, -1 AP, and getting extra shots is gonna hurt and going to make a big difference than just being 0. You can just choose to sit back with Tesla as well, which is fine. But if you do get in half range, that extra damage is going to be really, really good. Nihilaka, I keep pronouncing it so badly, I'm so sorry. Aggressively territorial. Reroll hit rolls for a unit with this code whenever the shot, I keep getting this wrong. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for this unit with this code whenever they shoot, including when firing Overwatch, as long as they did not move in the preceding movement phase and they did not disembark from transport during this turn. So interesting one this, where, I said maybe not as ideal in Necron warriors due to the desire to move and get in rapid fire and get double shots. However, there would be something to argue with, Immortals that might be a bit different. Say your Ghost Blasters, maybe a 5-man squad. Yeah, rapid fire is better, but maybe it might be better just to sit back and fire, reroll 1s, that might be helpful as well. But the Tesla Carbine, then this is going to actually be fantastic, so you don't need to be close. You can be 24 inches away, and you're still going to put out the maximum amount of shots that you were going to do if you're close by. So being 24 inches away, stay still, reroll 1s, means you might get more 6s, which means more shots. So certainly the aggressively territorial is going to be something to think about if you are going to be using Tesla Carbine Immortals. So I'd say it's a lot better than Necron Warriors. Next up we have Nephric. Yep, I'm so sorry. Translocation Beams. If a unit with this code advances, add 6 to its move characteristic for that movement phase instead of rolling a dice. If the unit is being affected by my will be done or wave of command ability, add 7 to its characteristic instead. In addition, if a unit with this code advances, its models can move across models and terrain as if they were not there. This one, as I said before, not so much of a fan of. It's very good because it allows you to become very, very mobile, essentially moving 11 inches, and 12 if you are, 12 I think if you add on my will be done, because it's 5 plus 6 and 7. So it does mean you do get to cover a lot more of the board, which is essential for Necrons, but it does leave you vulnerable to counter charges, etc. Even Tesla Carbine I don't find it as ideal, because you're essentially still being able to shoot, you're negating the strengths of Tesla. So yeah, if you think a mission objective may require you to move quick, and I'm sure in very good players' hands this can be really, really good, it's one to note simply because I think playstyles, mobility in 8th edition is absolutely essential, but it's not really my playstyle to go with, and I'm interested to hear from people who do find it their playstyle. Stratagems, we're going to speak about Solar Pulse. 1 command point, use a stratagem after a Necron unit from your army has declared its targets in the shooting phase, but before any hit rolls are made. Pick one of the enemy units that your unit is targeting, the enemy does not receive the benefit of cover against your unit's weapons this phase. This is surprisingly good. Maybe your opponent has, as I said, like a unit hunkered down in cover and you want to remove that cover, then yeah, for 1 command point that can be good. You've already got the Ghost Blasters, which are -2 AP. This essentially helps that even further. But against Tesla, this is almost essential because, simply put, if your opponent's getting an extra armor, you've not got any AP on your Tesla, it does mean you're going to get those wounds, those armor saves are going to fail more often. It's a surprisingly good one, Solar Pulse. I've used it a couple of times when they've got a hard entrenched unit. I'm like, nope, don't want your cover save, and it does bring a few more casualties. Especially with Tesla, which is going to be a higher amount of dice. Yeah, it can be really, really good. The Pharaon's Will, 1 command point. Use the stratagem after an overlord from your army has used My Will Be Done or Wave Command ability. This model can immediately use this ability for a second time this turn. Although this is, good for Ghost Blasters, this truly shines with Tesla Carbines, and massively so. It gives you a chance for 2 units to hit more reliably and activate Tesla on 5+. Excellent if you plan to use Immortals, and if you plan to use 2 10-man squads, then this is almost a given where a lot of command points may be going. So yeah, really good for Tesla, absolutely essential. Methodical Destruction, 2 command points. Use this stratagem after a Sutek unit from your army has inflicted an unsaved wound on an enemy unit. Add a 1-tip rolls for friendly Sutek units that target the same unit this phase. Overall, a pretty good stratagem. If your opponent has a big thing, you want to chuck dice at it, great. You want those Ghost Blasters to get through, fantastic. And of course, Tesla Carbine is much more beneficial from it, because obviously you're going to get more Tesla through to it. Add on My Will Be Done, and I think Tesla activates on a 4+, which just means you can drown your opponent in dice. Handy if you want to move, I don't know, big blob of orcs, or maybe you want to move off, more wounds from a knight. Generally a really good one as well. Maybe a bit pricey for 2 command points, but still pretty darn good. Lastly, we're going to go with Translocation Beam, 1 crypt, 1 command point. Use the stratagem during deployment. You can set up a Nifric infantry or swarm unit from your army in Translocation Crypt instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phase, this unit can translocate into battle, set up anywhere on the battlefield, that is more than 9 inches away from enemy unit. 1 command point, Deep Strike, simple enough. Rapid fire with your Ghost Blasters, fantastic. Shred that unit apart. Maybe it's one you're like, that really needs, it's got good toughness, or it's got toughness 4, it's got good armor, I just want to shred it down. Excellent, this can help quite a lot. Help with Tesla a wee bit. You maybe don't need to be in rapid fire with Tesla, you can sit back, great. Maybe if you're, I don't know, you want to be a bit more aggressive, fine. But I think certainly if you're going to go Ghost Blasters, then yeah, this is certainly something to think about. So that's my review of the Necron Immortals. Very similar to Necron Warriors in a way, but there is a few key differences. Simply the squad size. You may favour to be smaller and get those command points, or maybe you want to be bigger with Tesla and drown your opponent in dice. I find them personally a much more forgiving unit than the Necron Warriors. Necron Warriors can be very good, but used wrong, they're going to go badly, and they can be countered in various ways. While Necron Immortals, a bit more forgiving and a bit maybe easier to use, and certainly buffs can help them significantly to absolutely ply on the damage. So thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. What is better, Necron Warriors, Necron Immortals? Let me know. I'm very interested to hear what you think. And check us out on social media where we can see the various projects we are working on. I have a few upgoing at the moment. And as well, check us out on Patreon to help support the channel, bring you more content, because we absolutely love doing so. So thanks again, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.